Well, it's time for our first NFL draft segment of 2025. Joining us now, a man who I always love his work and catching up with him. I also happen to know that while he's down in Mobile right now, he's, I think, hit every all. Like, if you just got, like, I think a group of community college football players together and said, we're holding an all-star game, he would be there to scout it. This is what he does. This is his time of year. He is from CBS and Mr. Football Game Plan himself. He's our friend Emory Hunt, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Emory, it's Glenn. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's good, Glenn? I'm doing fine, man. As always, appreciate you bringing me on. And at the spot 7 on this All-Star game circuit, one more to go, but we're at the tail end of this All-Star game journey that I've been on since May, to be honest.
Jeez. All right. Let me run a couple of things by you as we start. I want to know, as you're at the Senior Bowl specifically, what's the group that you look at and you say, man, this is a group that it's just standing out as being particularly deep. Like, if that's where your needs are in this draft, there's going to be a lot there for you.
I would probably say running back, not biased, but there's a ton of backs here that are just
Yeah.
like extremely good starting level backs. And just throughout a different position, it's probably going to be I have to sandwich these guys together, but O line, D line. I like to say it like that because the point of attack group looks to be a very good one as well.
Okay. So I asked now a bit more specifically because I know we're all hot and bothered about running backs. The Ravens are pretty good there in that department. They're all right at running back. I think there's a fascinating conversation coming for the Ravens about the future of Ronnie Stanley. And I wonder if like there is left tackle, right tackle, players that are on that edge of the first round that you think are plug and play, whether again it's Roger Rosengarten moving to left tackle and the Ravens looking for a right tackle, or is there like legit left tackle type of talent that's available late in round one?
Well, yeah, that's the issue the Ravens always have is, you're picking late in the draft, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it takes away a Will Campbell opportunity. So you're not going to get arguably one of the top tackles or the kid out of Texas. But if you are going to pick late and you trust what you have and you trust your development of players, there's a bunch of guys that are in play. I know this is probably, not the spot that you would take a guy, but he's been having a fantastic week, and that's Carson Vincent out of Alabama A&M.
Okay.
Just outstanding footwork, measured really well. And some people probably thought he was going to be a guard. You come from the FCS level, but the fact that he's been out here holding his own consistently against premier edge guys at left tackle, it's been impressive to see. So that's one guy to me that just to bring up a name because of how he has played this week. But you think about Connolly, Josh Connolly of Oregon, another one that's really good. That he could be a potential first round guy. I just like that he's been able to consistently show up each and every day, do what he needs to do, and really hold his own too, in terms of like pass pro, the one-on-one drills and team drills. So Connolly will be someone that's probably a little bit more realistic in late round one, but someone that if you want to swing for the fences in round two or something like that, Carson Vincent to me has been really standing out.
You bring up Connerly. I know one of the big stories this week down in Mobile was his matchup with Mike Green from Marshall, and that's another position where the Ravens, we assume, are going to have need going into the draft. And the consensus has been that he is a bit of a late first round guy. What has stood out to you about Mike Green, not just at the Senior Bowl, but as a prospect overall?
Well, just the fact that he has good twitch off the edge and he's been, showing the speed to power that you want to see from guys coming off the edge, and he knows how to finish. A lot of times you see guys that either have a variety of moves, or guys may have good strength off the ball, or guys that may have good speed around the edge, but they never finish. So you have one part of the traits that you need, but not the finishing part, which is most important. And I think he does a great job in finishing. And I think that's where he has stood out on tape. And he's had a couple of good days here so far, here in Mobile with the day three coming tomorrow. But I just feel like this is someone played in a very good conference, the Sun Belt Conference, and you're going to see a lot of downhill run game there. So he's fitting the run really well, and a lot of teams in the Sun Belt also spread the field and want to throw the ball a lot, and so he's able to showcase that. So I think that's why a lot of times the conference these guys come from, number one, and the fact that he's been at a school consistently kind of helps you develop over the course of time a little bit faster than some of these guys that may have been playing at a Power Five school.
He is Emory Hunt. He's with us here on GCR down at the Senior Bowl. Emory, I wonder too, are there other edges, whether they're there, guys that you look at that you say these are impactful, again, day one plug and play types of early round picks that I think are names that maybe Ravens fans should be aware of as we move deeper into this draft season process?
There are three guys that really stood out. One being Shamar Stewart. He's a guy
Mm-hmm.
that probably can play across the front out of Texas A&M, and his burst off the ball, combined with his power and his ability to be disruptive, is just tremendous. Probably more of a five tech, but even then, he's someone that can get kind of that good pressure that you want. Sort of in the mold of Cam Jordan that plays for the New Orleans Saints, someone like that. Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina, we saw him all throughout the season and how well he was in really showcasing that length and athleticism. And Olu Aladejo out of UCLA, I remember getting familiar with his game. I watched the UCLA Iowa game live, and UCLA gave Iowa all they could handle up front at the point of attack, which is unheard of considering that's Iowa. And it was because of the D line, it was because of their linebackers. A couple of the linebackers I've seen on the course of my All Star game travels, but I saw Oladejo here, and when they kicked him down inside, he was able to win versus the guard. Obviously, had good twitch and closing speed off the edge, and finishing the play on the outside. So someone like that to me is where you can say, okay, I can understand if they took him late round one because again, this is a good O line D line group, and to watch the competitiveness on both sides of the ball here at the Senior Bowl has been impressive.
Emory, I saw you on Twitter. Shout out Quincy Riley from Louisville. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cornerbacks, as again we know the Ravens that they can't have too many, and we're certain that Brandon Stevens isn't going to be a part of the equation moving forward. Can you give us the thumbnail not only on Quincy Riley but some of the cornerbacks that have stood out most to you this week?
Yeah, Quincy Riley's been excellent, man. He's been well coached in college. You can see that because he's got great technique, great patience, kind of understands spacing, and patience in terms of like when to be aggressive, when to play the ball. So he's not going to get overly anxious and grabby. And so he's just been, textbook cornerback play that you want to see coming out this week. And Upton Stout out of Western
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, he may be a bit undersized, but man, he's almost like his name slips my mind. The corner the Ravens had out of Temple that was a
Oh,
shorter
Tavon
corner,
Young, yeah.
Avon Young, that you can trust on the outside because he understands how to press. He understands how to, match, mirror the receiver, and is super aggressive. I've been super impressed with what he's been able to do out here this week. And it's just been great to see a guy that you kind of want to pigeonhole because of his height and stature. Say, okay, that's a slot guy. Now, that may end up being true, but at the end of the day, he's been proving that he can hold his own on the outside, playing in space, and that's always a positive thing to see.
The wide receiver group. I'm still Emory. I'm still obsessed with the idea of finding a prototype type of receiver, and I don't think it's going to be round one. I think the Ravens they've got their top two spots taken care of, but I still feel like they could use one more of that type of guy, and I think somebody that could play immediately. Who stood out to you in this wide receiver group?
Well, just based off what they probably need, they need someone that has a little bit more size that can go up and get it. I've been impressed with Jack Besh. The fact that number one that he's out here, number
Right.
one, but
For
number
people
two,
that
the fact that
don't know his story, his brother died in the New Orleans tragedy, and I know that's been one of the kind of emotional parts of Senior Bowl week.
right because having you know had that happen to me before and having to go and play a game, later that week is I understand the mindset and to see him out here and obviously his situation is on a bigger stage with more at stake in terms of this is a job interview. So that in and of itself alone helps him pass with flying colors. But the play has been tremendous, and he's been excellent as always, like he was early in his career at LSU. So love what I'm seeing out of him. And Daquan Felton out of Virginia Tech. I remember calling one of his games early in his career where he was at Norfolk State. I was like, oh man, this is cool. Norfolk State has another receiver. This dude's going to be a pro. And then next later on that off season, after the season, he transfers.
Hmm.
So not surprised because he clearly looked like big fish in a small pond. But he has that. Both guys are bigger receivers that can go up and get the football that can be a quarterback's best friend. And when you think about what Baltimore has, yeah, you have someone like a Zay Flowers that's a darty guy that can get in and out of his cuts really well. You have someone like Rashad Bateman who can at times go and play above the rim,
Sure.
but I feel like these two dudes are legit consistent at playing above the rim. They rather play up top as opposed to playing underneath. And I think when you have that combined with the Bateman, combined with the Zay Flowers, now you have a well-rounded receiving core.
There's a few guys with local connections, and they do want to talk to you about another guy that you wrote about at CBS this week from the East West game. But the two Maryland guys, Ty Felton, Dante Trader. I think Ty Felton seems like he's pretty safely knowing he's going to hear his name called. But can you give me a thumbnail on those two guys? And then Rayon Lane from Navy, who to me is a hell of a player. I just never know what the real likelihood is of someone like that hearing their name called in the draft.
Yeah, with Lane, you want to know you're right because with Navy, I feel like they change the
Yeah,
rule every year,
yeah.
right? This year they're able to get drafted and go play. Then next year, oh nah, they got to do their 2 year commitment. So it's always tough. But let's just say he does play. I thought he put together some really good tape out there this season, and in terms of watching the other guys out there that you talked about, Trader, and how well he played. To me, that was I thought safeties are always tough in these games because a lot of safety play requires continuity, understanding who your personnel is, knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, and that's always tough for a safety in an all-star game setting because at the end of the day, man, like I just met these dudes this week,
Right.
and so it's always
Right.
tough for those guys. But Lane, to me, to your point, he had a really good day today. Um, on Wednesday, I believe this is Wednesday. All these days starting to run together. He had a really good day. You saw some of the footwork, some of the athleticism that he had and displayed. And Felton is super shifty, man. And there's a bunch of guys that are like Felton to where you can see them getting in and out of breaks, and you can see them causing problems at the top of the route. Um, and it's always hard to distinguish. I can see how a scout's job changes from what we do here on the media side of things because if you have a bunch of guys that kind of play like Felton and are of the same size and stature, quickness, all of those things, the separator becomes what type of kid is he? What type of
Yeah.
work ethic he has, and we on the media side won't know that. And so, from all accounts, he is someone that's checking those boxes, and that could be the separator between him and a bevy of receivers that are built the same way, run the same way, and look the same way.
So I saw over at CBSSports.com that you did your report from the Shrine Bowl, and one of the names that you brought up, and admittedly it was specifically about smaller college guys, but Carter Runyon from Towson, who to me really does look the part. I don't know how easy his path is going to be to trying to get into the mix, but he did stand out to you while you were down there.
Well, full disclosure, I called their game this year against Monmouth,
Yeah.
and so I got to see him in a live setting, and and just watching him and watching how he plays. I was like, man, this guy, he blocks really well. He's physical. That's always something that stands out in this day and age from tight ends because nobody wants to block. And so at the Shrine game, you get to see his athleticism and him run routes and him read zone coverage on the fly, him use his hands, catching traffic. Like, man, he is looking extremely consistent, which is always what you want to see. Who gets better every day? Who, if you're going to stay the same on from day one to day three, your day one better be excellent. And so I felt like he was trending in the right direction, getting better every day, becoming now more of a guy the quarterbacks sought out and went to with the football. And I thought that was impressive for him because, again, what we saw in the game against Bama definitely checked out here against upper level competition. That's also what you want to see when you're talking about these small college guys.
No question. No question about it. Emory Hunt, we could do this for another hour, and you know that I'm going to be in touch a few more times, but let's make sure that we plug up. I know you're working on the draft guide for people that don't know about it and need to know about it. Where can they find out more and maybe go ahead and get the pre-order in?
Yeah, get the pre-order in now, man. It's every year I put out the largest draft guide in existence. And when I say I'm not lying because it's over 1,000 individual scouting reports. So it doesn't matter if it's the guy that's in for rookie minicamp from Division III North Central, D'Angelo Hardy, who was with the Ravens. We had a scout report on him. And so you can go and pre-order that now at footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. And what's cool about it is I get DMs all the time from players that are either uh, coming into the draft or have another year, always asking, "Am I going to be in the draft guide? Am I going to be in it?" Like,
Ha,
so
ha.
it's pretty cool to see that. It shows that players respect the stuff that you put out there, and everybody wants to be in it. But at some point, I got to cut the number off. But at footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide.
To be clear, Emory Hunt would have made the football game plan draft guide, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely would have made it. Because again, no stone left unturned, and we're talking about all these schools, and there's some hidden gems there, man. Like, I know I'm gonna find a Frostburg State guy. I know I'm gonna find a Salisbury guy. So a Seagull. So just to add some Maryland flavor to it, there's always gonna be somebody from somewhere that no one's talking about that's gonna be in this guide.
You can, of course, follow him as well at FBall Game Plan and check him out, CBS Sports HQ. Emory, you're the best, brother. Appreciate you, man. Let's talk real soon, all right?
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, Glenn.